So this session it's about giving ourselves space to feel and building somatic awareness. So the word somatic comes from the Greek word somatikos, which means body, and that's relating to the body as opposed to the psyche. So when we are busy in our lives, and I don't know, I think that's just a kind of a state of being that perhaps we've come to. The increase of the amount of information we have access to alone makes our lives busier. So when we feel busy or are busy, we can have a tendency to disconnect from our body and from the feedback that our body is giving us. And our body is always giving us feedback. It's always talking to us. It's always like, hey, over here, over here. And so when we're disconnected from that feedback, then we're inhabited less within ourselves. We're less able to process and digest the information that we're getting. I like to compare this to driving or walking or biking. So imagine that you get to a really cool city, a new place, and you hop in a taxi and you drive down a really interesting street, and your eyes are darting all over the place, and you're picking up little bites of information. But you can only pick up on so much because you're driving in a car, so you're going kind of fast down the street. That compared to, imagine you're going down the same street on a bicycle, and so you're going a little slower. I mean, I guess it depends if you're going fast on a bicycle or going a little slower, but just imagine you're going at like a slower pace and you're able to pick up more information and take in more of the essence of that street. And that compared to walking down a street, and I know we can walk at different paces. Imagine you're walking down a street like strolling. You're just casually walking and you're taking in everything. You have time to smell the smells, to really see the people, to notice the details, to be drawn to different things. You have time to receive that feedback and to allow it to have an effect, to process what you're seeing, to digest, to really take it in. And when we can really take in information, it has a way of changing something. We will notice shifts. You might get inspired by something. You might get an idea. You might get drawn down a street somewhere and discover something new. So I like to use that as a comparison for our practice on our mat as well as off of our mat. When we're on our mat and we're able to stroll, we give ourselves a space to really dive into things, to really process and feel and experience and experiment with the different aspects of what's unfolding. This in turn enables us to digest what comes to the surface. So when we are distracted somewhere else, that can cause us to become kind of outside of our body, less connected to the feedback we're getting, less connected to our sensational experience, the experience of our sensations. And then that can cause us to move fast or eat fast. And so when we eat fast, we chew less and swallow bigger chunks. And so that imposes a greater deal of work upon our body to have to do to break down the food. It causes us not to extract as much of the nutrition from the food. And so I compare this to our practice because I experience it in the same way. When I get to move really slowly, I can feel like my body is chewing. It's like masticating the information. I feel like I am breathing more slowly. So my breath is able to assist in chewing and processing the information. And this has a way of allowing us to extract more of the value or the energy potential or the nutrition or the nourishment from our practice as it does when we chew our food slowly. So part of this week's in the experiment section is about slowing down how we chew our food, how we eat. So I wanted to mention that although this intensive is about slowing down, it doesn't necessarily mean that for this week you have to like move slow motion through your day, or that you have to make more time in your day to do these experiments and practices. Obviously, you're making more time to do these 3-hour live practices. But I want the rest of the experiments to be accessible and manageable. So think about it like this, that it's not necessarily about creating more time in your day, but really living in the time that's already there. And so slowing down how we're processing the information of our day. That way, these practices can be incorporated in a more practical way, rather than it be something that it's like, oh, I have this practice, but I know it's going to take this much time. And then it feels like something that's insurmountable or not manageable, and then we can end up not doing it. So do all of these practices in the space and time that already is there. Practice them in your day-to-day routine. So it enables a deeper listening while we are in motion, as well as stillness. But while we're in motion, that's a harder time to listen and to really take in the feedback that we're getting. When we can really listen to the feedback we're getting from our body and from our environment, and how we're really starting to witness how we're processing that information, it enables us to move into a kind of alignment while we're in motion. And this is one of the aspects that we'll practice today on the mat. And I'll get into that a little more deeply in a moment. So we can use the feedback that we are getting to empower us to stay in alignment with our values and with our desires and our wishes and our goals. And this is really beautiful, because when we're moving quickly, sometimes we're moved from a place of automation, we could say. We learn to do things in a more automated way so that we can, like, quote unquote, keep up. And sometimes when we do things from a more automated place, we're not necessarily in the process of making very distinct, clear choices. So just by slowing down or amplifying or magnifying our presence in our moment to moment to moment to moment existence enables us then to be more in alignment with what it is that we really want and to act from that place. I think this is one of the most powerful things ever. It connects us, so moving more slowly enables us to connect more thoroughly and more deeply and more fully to the intelligence of our body, to this intrinsic life that we are. I look down at my body. And this is something we'll explore in great depth over the course of this week together.